Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Tuesday, January 15th, 2013. I'm Darko, and in this video we're going to cover the economy and some eugenics, and then in the next, probably in the last video, the third one, we'll get into some surveillance and police state news. So the first article I have for you is Recession's Consequence is the Rise of the Working Poor. 1/3 of working families are near poverty. So it goes on to says the good news, well, here it goes. The more people went back to work in the U.S. in 2011. The bad news, many of them took lower paying jobs, leading to an increase in the number of working poor families that year. So this is what I was talking about as far as Obamacare. It's actually going to mask the unemployment or the poverty. It's going to create permanent poverty. That's what it should be called, the poverty bill, instead of Obamacare. So it says in 2011 there were 200,000 more working poor families than said those struggling with poverty, even though the parents are employed, than in 2010. So according to this report, all in all, almost 1/3 of working families struggle near poverty rate and may not be able to meet the basic needs, an increase of 28% in 2007 and a 31% increase in 2010. Parents in these families most likely took service industry jobs, including maids, restaurant servers, cashiers, janitors, cooks, that offer fewer hours, lower pay, fewer benefits, and less job security. And on Yahoo and the Reuters AP, they put the headline as number of working poor families grows as wealth gap widens. Then they go on and say as the economy has improved, one would expect that the benefits of that improvement would to some extent tie to these low-income families. So that's, of course, the trickle-down economics theory, but it's data shows that the top 20% of Americans receive 48% of all income, while those in the bottom 20% got less than 5%. States in the South, such as Georgia and South Carolina, and those in the West, such as Arizona and Nevada, have had the greatest increase in the number of working poor. The increase was slower in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. The next up, job competition is way down in America. Competition in the labor market is decreasing dramatically. It says the number of unemployed persons per job opening stands at 3.28, the lowest since October 2008. And here's a chart from the American Enterprise Institute. Unemployed persons per job opening from January 2006 around -1.5 to November 2011, which is around -4. So you can go in there and check it out. Links will be posted. Also, millionaires are returning to the stock market. The share of millionaires planning to investing their money in stocks this year rose up to 55%, up 10% from 2010. It says that the millionaires are taking more risk, but not necessarily because they feel things are better. It goes on, it says it's strictly the challenge of desiring a better return. So, and it says that's available because the interest rates are so low. So as far as where they're going to invest in 2013, the most likely scenario is the lowest is the Treasury, followed by real estate, precious metals, CDs, and then it gets higher as you get into stock market funds, stocks, bank accounts, and bonds. After you've been all you could be serving the empire, Walmart is now hiring. So it says via Reuters, Walmart, the world's largest retail, says its plans to hire more than 100,000 veterans in the U.S. over the next 5 years. It says it's a move supported by First Lady Obama. Most of the veterans will be placed in the company's stores and clubs, and some will be employed in distribution centers. The retailer will start issuing job offers to veterans from Memorial Day in May. It says the offers will be given to any honorable discharge veteran with his or her first 12 months off active duty. You have former Army psychologist critical of military dies by suicide. So a lot of these very interesting deaths lately in the last month or two. So they said this individual was punctual, conscientious graduate student of Minnesota. He later earned a doctorate degree, became Army psychologist, and was deployed to Iraq during the height of the war. When he returned, he was paranoid and disorganized assistant professor, friends say. So he went to Iraq to help U.S. troops deal with the PTSD, and it says when he returned, he was also in the clutches of PTSD. So they said he was really suffering, and it didn't matter that I was a mental health professional. They couldn't help him, they said. So yeah, pretty bad. You can go in there and check it out. Links will be posted. Bankers die in Texas plane crash. A private plane carrying 3 men working for a Utah bank crashed in mysterious circumstances shortly after takeoff in Texas on Saturday, killing all 3 aboard. The Utah bank was Celtic Bank, they say. Then we have inflation rocks the UK as bear gets watered down. It says these types of stories are popping up with increased frequency throughout the Western world. Products are simply declining in quality, and in many cases, the declines are being accompanied by price increases. So it says they talked about this recent article, inflation hits coffee as brewers secretly swap Robusta for Arabica. And it goes on to says Britain's favorite pint of bitters being watered down as austerity continues to bite and taxes rise. Horse meat discovered in burgers sold in the UK and Ireland. So we were just talking about how there could be human cells and DNA and stuff like that in food. And we're talking about cloned animal milk coming from cloned animals, meat coming from cloned animals, and they're all coming out of the UK. And then you have horse meat discovered in burgers sold in the UK. Now, whatever, some people may like horse meat. Maybe it's getting ready to put to death. You don't want it to go to waste, but here you go. And at least you should know about it, right? Which are eating kind of like GMOs. 4 major supermarket chains operating in Britain are withdrawing a number of beef products after horse DNA was found in frozen burgers sold in the UK, Ireland by Aldi, Iceland, Lidl, and Tesco. Interesting. Americans are spending more than $6 billion on airline fees. This is just in the last year. That's the true price of flying, besides, of course, like I said before, getting detained and molested at the security lines and basically humiliated, But it goes on here and says they spent $6 billion in baggage cancellation change fees on top of their ticket prices in 2012. So the data says that the first 9 months of last year, total fees are up about 4% over previous year. And here you can take a look at the total fees by airline. And so far right now, Delta gets the gold, followed by United Airlines getting the silver, and American Airlines with the bronze. Then you have most of the lower ones are Alaska, Spirit, Legion, JetBlue, Frontier, Hawaiian, and Virgin. And I've seen stories like this before. I believe it was in Michigan, where people were just mobbing this window, benefits window. It says here, Section 8 housing voucher distribution canceled after thousands waiting in line get out of control. Chaotic scene erupted at the Taylor Human Services Center when the crowd was waiting for Section 8 housing voucher distribution got out of control. So police say thousands of people from all over the area were at the center. Many were homeless, single moms, or disabled. Working poor in that. They were hoping to get help paying their housing from the government. So elderly, disabled, pregnant, single women, just there to get help. And so that shows you that how desperate people are. So, but it says that they're being told that there was 1,000 vouchers available and 5,000 people showed up trying to get one. So this is a lot like the airlines. Even when they try to hire stewardess jobs. You got maybe 500 positions, and there'd be 5,000 people that show up. I mean, those are kind of like little red flags there. Several people were arrested. The rest were sent home. It says the day's distribution was canceled and will not be rescheduled. Greeks raid forests in search of wood to heat their homes from the 14th of January. Tens of thousands of trees disappeared from the parks and woodlands this winter across Greece, authorities say, in a worsening problem that has had tragic consequences. As the crisis hit countries, impoverished residents too broke to pay for electricity or fuel turned to fireplaces and wood stoves for heat. There's actually, you can go in there and check out the link, there's actually a picture of a little forest gutted out. So they're just signs of what's going on, kind of like the putting locks on dumpsters in Spain, and then Greeks bartering and stuff like that. And then we have this, now Greece bans cash again. So the finance ministry planned to put out an end to cash payments, says purchases worth more than 500 euros will not be possible with cash money anymore. They told the Parliament on Thursday that it examines that the expansion of electronic transactions with credit cards and other electronic payment methods, says here, smaller than those required by current legislation, which is currently at 3,000 euros. All transactions worth more than 500 euros, will have to be made only through money transfer through banks, credit, debit cards, and checks. So Greece is going to ban most cash transactions. As of last year, these cash transactions over 1,500 euros were banned. This moves the ban down to 1,000 euros. Then we have Germany's Bundesbank, whatever you pronounce it, is to commence repatriating gold from the New York Fed. So they said it could be a watershed moment for the price, provenance, and future of physical gold, not to mention the stability of the entire monetary regime based on rock-solid, undisputed faith and credit in paper money. So yeah, Germany, basically, the long-suffering German gold is about to be moved. So moved out of the New York Fed, with a majority or 45% of it's currently stored. I was just talking about this, and while it's one thing for a crazy lunatic dictator such as Hugo Chavez to pull his gold from the Bank of England, it's something entirely different. It's far less dismissible when the bank with the second most official gold reserves in the world proceeds to formally pull some of its gold from the bank with the most. So yeah, it's talking about trust in central banks by other central banks is ending. And I was thinking about that today too. I have an Indiana license, and you need to, like, to buy tobacco or alcohol, and I was wondering, like, this is just a piece of plastic, and I'm like, they could really just reject it, but it's just faith. They put faith in the system. They put faith in this stupid piece of card that says that's me. It's not me. I'm not a piece of plastic with letters. I'm right here. But people put their faith in that, like money. So as long as people keep putting their faith in it, it'll keep going. You have new pay per mile scheme would boost taxes 250%. So it goes on here and says that they would scrap the federal gas tax in favor of a pay per mile fee, and that would boost the tab to Americans as high as 250%, raising their current tax of 18 cents a gallon to as high as 46, according to a new government study. They threaten you by saying that without the tax increase, the government's highway fund is going to go dry. So, like I always say this, they always use the highways and the roads. Got to have the roads. So you have billions, trillions of, the GDP is, what is it, 13 trillion, not, whatever it is, but it's a lot of money. It's all, it's being produced from people that are working and providing goods and services, right? And so then they pay these taxes because they're told that they have to have a government for police and to pay for the roads. Yet they pay all this fucking money, and then every time something happens, unemployment's going to run out. Well, people are paying into unemployment every paycheck, so how could it run out? It's like they're paying for all these taxes. They're supposed to be going to the roads first and foremost. That's why we have a government, not to go to this, not to go to that, not to fund reproductive health, i.e. abortions and stuff like that in other countries, and contraceptives and sterilizations. I mean, there's so much waste that goes on, and then we got to have the highway fund's gonna go dry if we don't pay these taxes. But there's a good chance that if they're gonna do it per mile anyways, they're gonna have to have those little tracker boxes, which are probably in most cars, if not all of them already. Then you have a new reform idea. Swap income tax for sales tax. So you really shouldn't even have a tax on your income. It's a fairly new tax. It goes kind of to the Federal Reserve, paying off interest to use your money and all that, and God knows what else. But then you have sales tax. Like, I remember in Indiana, they don't tax your food. So, I mean, it's kind of good for working poor, just people that are living in poverty. That helps you get by. Where in other states, they'll tax the hell out of you. They tax everything, right? But it's just pretty interesting because it's just like, they're going to tax what people need to get, right? So, swap income tax for sales tax. And somehow that's going to all balance out. So you want the economy to grow and keep growing, but then you're going to tax the people when they try to spend. Americans feel austerity's bite as payroll taxes rise. This is interesting because someone was just telling me about this, how it's taken effect. Americans are beginning to feel the pinch from Washington's decision to embrace austerity measures aimed at bringing down the nation's budget deficit, supposedly, right? Which you'll never do. You'll never pay it off. It's not meant to. But it goes on, it says paychecks across the country have shrunk over the last week due to higher federal tax rates, and workers are already cutting back on spending, which will drag on the economy this year. So he says here, this one individual from Rhode Island got his first paycheck on Friday, in which taxes on his wages rose by 2 percentage points. That works out to about $30 a week. He says you sit back and do the calculation, that's $30 I'm not going to spend at a restaurant. And that's someone else made a good point, that a lot of these small restaurants have been around for a while. They're going to go under when the middle class can no longer afford to go out, which is kind of a treat to go out on the weekends and eat, and they can't do that anymore. Well, then these smaller restaurants that have been struggling for a while now are just going to go under. Then you're going to just have these corporate chains everywhere. It's so funny. I see like CVS, Walgreens, where I'm at right now, and they're like shrines, they're like temples, you know what I mean? And all these lit up lights and fancy architecture. Like you go through this little arc when you go through there to the big pharma complex, carrying out their sorcery and that. That's all it is. It's just going to be big corporate chains. So it goes on here and it says that Obama said the deal would shield 98% of Americans from the middle class tax hike. Nevertheless, for most workers, rich and poor alike, taxes went up on December 31st as temporary payroll tax cut expired. Economists estimate that payroll tax hike will reduce household incomes by a collective $125 billion this year. So that $125 billion will go into the government's ability to spend more on debt, and they'll work and pay that off. Thank you.